All right. I'm back again, Chris Cashin. To be honest, I really don't want to be doing this right now, but I feel like I have to. So, it's my first attempt at trying to tell the full story. Bear with me. It's probably going to be a long video, and I'll try and bring it to GameStop as soon as possible. But I do think it's important that people understand what's actually happening. Um, so again, my name's Chris Cashin. Look me up. I'm truly not trying to hide anything. I don't think these people are going to come after me. I don't think they can. I'll talk about that more later, I think. Um, and I spent the last 13, 14 years in the e-commerce space. That I got my first role at this place called True Ship in Scottsdale, Arizona, right by the Scottsdale Air Park. I want to say it was 2012 or 2013. Really, I wanted to get into SaaS, software as a service. Back then, it was just starting to blow up, and I was tired of doing just regular sales. I wanted something that I could at least uh, grow with, I guess. So I spent 6 or 7 years there. Ended up in 2016. I ended up flying out to Connecticut to speak at a Pitney Bowes conference. It was a real, kind of tight knit thing. Just a handful of partners, maybe a couple hundred people. I went out there to present a new version of software and some of the services we had, which really focused on utilizing the post office and some of the new programs that they had, which our company was incentivized through a reseller partnership. We were incentivized to promote. It was a good service either way, so I didn't have a problem with that. Um, and after that meeting, I was approached by three different parties with job offers. I knew I was a good speaker. It was kind of flattering. Anyway, I'll come back to that part later. I ended up taking a job with this company in Salt Lake called Visible Supply Chain Management. Right, they were one of the four authorized USPS resellers, and they were the biggest ones. And somehow I was able to get a job that didn't require me to relocate. I could stay in Phoenix. I could fly up to Salt Lake. I'd have a team, and I'd help them build their software partner program through things like ShipStation, Shopify. Uh, if it's e-commerce related, whether payments, shipping, um, even Amazon worked with the post office, not with the company I worked for. But my company, my company, the company I work for, Visible, we even provided rates to Stamps.com. There's a lot more on Postal that I won't bore you with in this video. I'll probably talk about that in the future. But anyway, I worked at Visible for 3 years until 2019. I could tell they were getting ready for an exit, and it wasn't a good environment for me anymore. I kind of had this epiphany in 2019 of where I saw the world going. I kind of saw a future where you were either doing deliveries or you were ordering deliveries, to put it real simply and in a binary format. And I didn't like that, right? This is when, DoorDash and Uber Eats and all that stuff really started taking off. And to me, it just was this overwhelming feeling of like, this is a real messed up future. Um, and I had this epiphany of how we could compete with it, how I could compete with it, compete with Amazon specifically. They were really gobbling up the e-commerce space. This was done through integrating like four or five other technologies, things that were already in existence, but that supported aspects of the e-commerce process, the checkout process, the fulfillment and delivery process. So I left Visible in 2019, started IndyShip is what it was called, INDYSHIP, and we got lucky early. This was October, November 2019. We somehow got a job with a big retailer. Had a lot of balloon deliveries, local balloon deliveries. No one wanted to deliver them. Balloons were like the least ideal product for a box truck. In the delivery space, it's all about how many packages you can fit on your truck, what the size and density of those packages are, and then kind of what the density of your route is, meaning how many deliveries can you do in one shift. And so balloons were not ideal. They took up a lot of space, they weren't very heavy, and you really couldn't do a whole lot of deliveries per route. So no one wanted this account. We looked into it. It was not a good deal, realistically. We lost a lot of money, but we also knew that was part of building a business. And between 2019 and early 2020, we were scaling into 15, 16 states. And then COVID hit, right? Everything shut down. Retail shut down. Balloon delivery obviously shut down. We all locked up, so on and so forth. So I ended up having to shut down the company. I had another thing. I was doing consulting through my own company called Parcel Consulting. This was, it could be with anybody, could be with some of these platforms, could be with customers looking to save money on shipping, could be with international companies looking for best strategies and practices to ship to the US, right? So I did that for a few years. Long story short, I ended up launching an Indie Ship version 2 when one of the old business partners approached me to work with a big newspaper distribution company. This was, I think, late 2020, early 2021. That didn't work out either. We had some funding opportunities. I wasn't comfortable with where those came from. And I speak my mind. So we parted ways. It was not a good way to leave the company or to part ways with business partners. And I ended up continuing to do some side work and took a couple full-time jobs in addition to that back in the industry. Worked for a company called Sendle that was out of Australia, doing cross-border shipping into the U.S. and then also shipping intra-U.S. And then worked for another freight company called Redstone out of Kansas. So it was at this time in March of this year where things had just been getting weird. Over the prior 18 months, my profile had just exploded. Wasn't trying. I was always trying to raise my profile. I've always been big on community networking, but it just felt unusual. But I didn't understand what was going on. It felt like I was influencing the market in an outsized way. But it was, I'd have a conversation with somebody, and then 8 months later, I'd see them implementing something from that conversation. It wasn't something I was paid for. Sometimes these were big moves or partnerships, and I just couldn't help but think that somehow these conversations were impacting it. Again, it was so distant and far apart that I didn't put much thought into it. Then throughout Q4 and Q1, Q4 of last year, Q1 of this year, I just started getting reports across the market, across North America, Canada, and the U.S., that something just wasn't right. There was a massive amount of shipments coming in through the ports. I participated in a lot of networking calls with manufacturers, suppliers, Fortune 500 companies as a supply chain expert, as someone to help offer insight in the landscape, help folks plan for future forecasting, inventory management. What are the carriers going to do with the rate increase? Kind of stuff like that. Most folks find it boring. I liked it because I could help people save money. In any case, the reports that were coming in were that there just wasn't any business. That all of the market indicators were showing positive signs of improvement, but no one was feeling it. The carriers, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, at least they were reporting healthy volumes publicly, but then privately they were offering like these really, really crazy rates, things that no one had seen in 20 or 30 years. I have all of this documented. I've got screenshots. Right now I'm just trying to get the video out and focus on the message. I've posted much of this anywhere I can, and I'll keep adding more sourcing and share my story as much as possible. So in any case, March 27th of this year, the Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, was speaking in front of Congress. I think that was the day he actually spoke. If it wasn't, March 27th was the day that I realized whatever was going on was bigger than I understood. And what had happened is I just made a comment on LinkedIn about something that Joy had mentioned that would impact the postal public-private partnerships, this niche industry called drop shipping, postal injection. Neither here nor there for this video, but it stood out to me that it caught this guy's attention. I'm just kind of a mid-level entrepreneur, maybe not even mid-level, trying to build a profile, and yet somehow an ad hoc one-off post on LinkedIn got his attention. And given everything else that was going on, I just felt like I needed to start digging. I've posted some of this already. Again, I'll just kind of walk you through what I found, but take a little bit longer to help you understand what it all means. Let's see here. So initially, this kind of started with just reading anything I could find. I was already really familiar with the industry, so I did know where to look, but the amount of data that I had to go through was immense. I started reading stuff. I started writing multiple drafts of articles. Initially, my plan was to go public right away, to take this to news media, and then as I kept digging, I'll show you why. Let me just skip to that. So let me shrink this. Right here is just what the parcel volumes are before the pandemic and what the forecast was post-pandemic. These were just some of the benchmark and public data I started using to wrap my head around what was going on, where's the volume coming from, who's winning it, and why are things happening this way. Here's just some more screenshots also of 2023. You can find a whole infographic for the last several years called the Pitney Bowes Parcel Index. If you Google that, you'll be able to download all of this and world shipping data for most major countries. I honed in on things that I had started hearing in my market, in my industry more frequently. These were things like de minimis shipping, cross-border shipping, keywords like Type 99 and T86, which ended up being a type of classification for Customs and Border Patrol. In short, what this means is it's something our government allowed, where if any item, any single shipment that's individually labeled comes into the country and it's less than $800 in declared value, there's no taxes or duties paid. It makes it really great for e-commerce companies, marketplaces in other parts of the world to ship here, and most consumers love it because it's the same experience as buying domestically. You wouldn't pay duties or customs fees on something you bought from Best Buy, so why would you do it on something you bought from Alibaba or Shein or Temu, right? But as I kept digging, just more and more didn't add up. This was a screenshot. This is a screenshot from Customs and Border Patrol's website. I took this March or April would have been the time. That was their mid-fiscal year, so these numbers will have changed. I haven't gone back to update this. But you'll see here in 2020, we had 636.7 million de minimis shipments. That increased about, 10%, 20%, somewhere in that range in 2021. It declined in 2022, which is a little bit unusual. That was kind of a pendulum swing from the COVID boom, is what I initially chalked it up to. And then in 2023, we see this big lift. I mean, that's like a 33% increase year over year, 50% increase year over year, something like that. My brain is mush at this point. And then looking at where we were at in March of 2024, we were already at 705 million shipments. To help you quantify these numbers, I pulled all sorts of data to back it. I used the rule of thumb of I think it was like $70 was the average e-commerce order. It fluctuates daily, so it's difficult to pin down. But when you look at how many shipments were coming in, what that average e-commerce order could be, it has an immense impact on our trade balance. Simply put, these these do end up counting as imports in some way, and more importantly, these take away from domestic businesses, even places that might already source their inventory from China or from India or from anywhere other than the U.S. This is taking away from those businesses. I wrote. I'll skip to that here in a minute. So here you just have an immense amount of data on parcel, on freight, on ocean cargo, retail trade. Eventually, it led to these charts here, which break down what the total estimated parcels are in 2020 and where those ended up shifting to in 2023. So just to show you where the year that really stuck out to me was this year from 2022 to 2023, where all of the available parcels in the e-commerce space, this would be all shipments at UPS, FedEx, the post office, Amazon, and all regional carriers compete for, that whole market only grew, or let's say grew by 440 million shipments. Amazon alone that year grew by 1.2 billion shipments. So the market grew by 440 million, and Amazon grows almost 3x what the market grew in total. It just didn't make sense to me. At the same time, it looked like there were shipments, quite literally coming into the market that weren't able to be competed for. UPS didn't have an opportunity to compete. FedEx didn't have an opportunity to compete. The post office didn't have an opportunity to compete. There's a whole lot more to it. Again, this is all the real boring stuff. And it ended up just leading to these charts, which you might have seen. What we have here consistently are trade balance is your blue trend line. This vertical dashed red line is the date that they joined this strategic initiative. And then this blue trend line is the trade balance with the United States. So starting off with Armenia, this is an anomaly. And you will notice on some of these, the data was incomplete. So that it does lead to this kind of half trend line or half, some weirdness at the end. So we've got Austria, which in 2020, you definitely see the trade balance with the U.S. precipitate. And you right around the same time, if not exactly the same time, you see them start shipping a lot more to the United States. Back here in 2015 is when they joined this initiative. Azerbaijan, kind of the same thing, except we actually started trading a lot more with Azerbaijan before 2014, and then their imports to the U.S. declined. You'll notice that there's certain countries that if you look into their political or other geographical relationships, there's other reasons why that will explain some of the anomalous trends. Bulgaria trade balance precipitates in 2020, and imports to the U.S. explode at the same time. In 2015 is when they joined this initiative. Czech Republic, same thing. Hungary, same thing. Notice again, the years will vary, but the trend starts changing usually within 18 months of this red dashed line. Again, Kazakhstan, I didn't know we imported that much from Kazakhstan, honestly. This I thought was interesting with Poland because they were precipitating for years. And then looks like in 2021, we must have started trading something with them. They must have started buying something from us. What would that be? You let me know. Serbia, Slovak Republic, I don't think we really have a trade balance with them, or this data was missing. That's why this line's like this. And you'll see their commodities coming into the U.S. are steadily growing, let's say. Here, South Africa, their trade balance 2019, interesting year, right? Here we go, Turkey. This is Group 2, which had joined this initiative in 2015. I think overall I ended up with 4 groups. Group 0 was the largest. Let me show you this one. We'll go a little bit slower, but I want to make sure, spend some time. This group only includes countries that did not join this initiative. It's why it's the largest group. I got to a point where it felt like I had been fed a story, but it came in over months, if not longer. It came in from multiple different places, and I don't know how to explain it. But I wanted to ensure before I went public, before I went to a media company, that I didn't say the wrong thing because I knew what this stuff meant. By this point, this had to have been mid-April. Was probably right about when I'd gotten to this point in the data. I knew how big it was, but everyone around me was telling me I was crazy. They were gaslighting me, telling me, I just don't know that the data says what you think it does. And I knew that taking this to the wrong people could start World War III. Honestly, I thought it would change the election. And so I spent another week or two digging further, looking at not just the countries rather that had joined this initiative, but looking at all of the countries, those friendly to the U.S. and those not friendly. So here's Canada, very friendly to the U.S. We see the same trend in 2020. Mexico, different stuff in Mexico. Auto manufacturing might be a place to go back to see where the trend started or where things shifted. And again, I have so much more data. I just need people to listen. Here's the trade balance again, just steady decline. Germany, the same thing. India, same thing. Right? I've added notes. Feel free to pause. Italy. Interesting thing about Italy, if I remember correctly, they actually left this initiative around this time. And so, okay, so I guess here it is. They did join in 2019. They decided not to renew actually last year. So that doesn't explain this trend line here. Again, my memory's kind of mush at this point. I hope you can understand. Here's France. Again, you see this trade balance did start rebounding. And mind you, there's a lot going on. This was the pandemic. Supply chain globally was having issues. The concerning thing for me after I started looking at these countries was this started looking like everybody. And it became apparent that it felt like it had been going on a long time. Not just through one or two administrations, but potentially longer than that. So I tried reaching out to some media companies. One got back, ProPublica did on Signal. I ended up not responding. That wasn't their fault. The other ones just didn't get back to me. I knew I had to get the message out to a plethora of people. At least I felt like I did, because I felt like if I didn't get it out to multiple people at once, then this was all for naught. Because I truly believed my life was at risk in going public. I hope that doesn't sound as crazy at this point. So I actually reached out to Superstonk. I tried posting, didn't have enough karma, so I sent one of the mods a message, and they gave me a weird response. They blocked me. I don't know that it was malicious, honestly. I don't want anyone to go brigade them. It just gave me a funny feeling, and I knew I was already, being fairly paranoid given the circumstances. So the next morning, I decided I was going to contact whistleblowers, multiple agencies, and I did. First, I called the 800 number. On my Reddit post, you'll see I've provided screenshots of this. It's showing the date, the time. If I came out with all of this just to lie, I mean, that would be crazy. To come out with all of this and tell the truth, I see how you think I'm crazy. But to be honest, I've given you everything you can to validate. At a certain point, I'm not the one who's being crazy. In any case, I contacted the 800 number. I left a message. I contacted a colleague after that. And this was a colleague that had worked for Amazon, had worked for Shopify. And I hadn't talked to this person in about a month. And as I told them about what was going on, they said, Chris, you have to know this is real. I've been in those rooms. I've been in legal with some of these people. People get killed for this type of stuff, and uh, that was the last person that I really talked to until this week, other than my wife. So I then went straight to my office where I'm sitting right now, and I typed out my first whistleblower complaint. I wanted to make sure it wasn't just a 2-minute message on an automated line. I wanted someone to get the data. And I took about 30-45 minutes, compiled everything, I sent it in. I told my wife, I said, look, I don't know what this means. I at that point, I think I did feel like maybe the government was somehow involved. They had to be. They had all the tools to stop this, and nothing seemed to happen. So it was scary, honestly. I told my wife, I contacted them. If they don't get back to me tomorrow morning, I've got to go public. I've got to find a way. And we booby trapped the house. I grabbed my gun. I kept at least one gun on me for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, at least, everywhere I went, because I didn't know what was going to happen. In any case, the next morning, the morning after I called the whistleblower line, I did get a call back. It came in from a blocked number, a private number. Ended up being a 10-minute phone call. Was one person that had they said they had legal on the line. Legal never spoke. They hadn't seen my data yet. They said that something I had mentioned in my voice message had triggered a keyword, and that they wanted to follow up and ensure that I sent in any of the information associated. So I let them know I already did. I did that yesterday. They confirmed I had all of the the TCR number that they provide, so you can provide additional information to the same complaint at a later date. And they were very clear that I would not hear from them. I would not get a phone call, and that they don't usually call if action is taken. And if action was taken, maybe they'd call in 8 to 10 weeks. And I thought I was done. I was like, great, okay, my life might be at risk, but as long as we get through the next 8 to 10 weeks, I'll get a whistleblower reward, and I'll save the world, whatever it was. And that's not what happened, right? That weekend, it felt like I still hadn't found enough. I couldn't understand why I had figured all this out. Like, why hadn't I was pissed, honestly. I was pissed at the government. I was pissed at my colleagues, people that I knew that I now understood were somehow in on this. They were at least aware of what was happening. And I pondered all weekend trying to figure out what this was. And then all of a sudden Monday, I open up Reddit and I see there's a few stocks exploding. So I buy on FFIE. I had already gotten some short positions on UPS, FedEx, and Amazon prior to the whistleblower complaint, because, again, I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew I couldn't work. And I figured this was such a big deal. By my uneducated financial estimate, the U.S. would be broke in weeks, 10, 12 weeks max. So what does the rest of it matter at that point, right? Getting a whistleblower reward, etc. Place some short positions on UPS, FedEx, and Amazon. Monday comes around, FFIE is exploding, and I just start going at it. I realized who was behind it, right? Initially, I did think this was China. And then I understood it was made to look like China. Again, all the countries involved, the fact that our country, our systems, our regulators should have noticed this. They must have noticed this at some point in the last 15 years, if not longer, and they allowed it to happen. So I looked at, actually saw Ian Carroll's video on Who Owns Everything. I don't know if I saw it around this time. There was a point where I did my own research into who owned everything, and it's all a shell game, right? It's never who the first name is. Sometimes it's not who the second name is. You have to go up a couple layers, and all of that always ends up leading to the same three. And so that weekend, that weekend, sometime I ended up sending in a second whistleblower complaint, not just mentioning the people that I had encountered in my industry, not just Amazon and the parcel carriers, but the big three. Honestly, who was behind all of it, and it still didn't answer how I understood all of this, how I knew how I had figured it out. I can't describe the feeling, but I just knew there was more. And then I realized that there was more. That there was a church connected to all of this, a church that many of the people that I'd worked with for years were connected to, a church that I myself grew up in, a church that my great 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 grandfather somehow was an early member of, right? I'll come back to that later. To get to the GameStop stuff, I kept bidding. I built this list of the top companies these asshats owned, and I watched every morning. I got up every morning to see which stocks they were pumping, and I bet against them. And I didn't know how to cover my positions at first. You'll see that in the data. So I got my ass handed to me the first week, just completely beat. And then that led to week 2. This would have been, the week of May 15th, something like that now. I'd already been betting for 2 or 3 weeks before I knew who Roaring Kitty was, honestly. I knew who he was, but I'd never watched his stuff. In any case, by week 2, I think I'd figured out how to cover my positions. And then what I saw was every morning I'd catch these guys by surprise and my positions would explode. I'd get 30, 40, 50% gains sometimes. But I didn't put closeout prices, so I still don't understand stocks, honestly. I left my positions open. I didn't want them. I didn't want the algo to be able to, pump a stock and then force exit my position and then just go do what it was going to do anyway. I didn't want them to be able to expect me. And this was again. Let me tell you the date. It would have been this week, the week of May 13th. So you should see this in my data. You should see me start covering my positions. My screenshots will show you exactly what I'm sharing with you. And then it was this week that I ramped my shit up. Initially I was just doing like short term, the cheapest positions you could get, right? Like way out of the money, nearest expiration date. And then I started following you guys. I started reading, the GME subreddit, the Superstonk subreddit, fuck Wall Street bets. But I started following people and realized I was just doing all the stuff wrong. So week 2, I started covering. By week 3, I started closing the spread gap. So even though I'd been covering week 2, I was leaving like massive gaps between a put and a call. Again, this is all off of memory. I haven't gone through my own trade data. I don't understand that stuff. But somehow I was able to figure out the supply chain. It's the weirdest thing. In any case, by this week of the 20th, I had covered all my positions, right? I had closed a bunch of gaps. I'm pretty sure I'd finally started like putting this, like maybe a 50-cent gap or even the same price, same strike price for a put and a call. So they didn't have any room. I think XRT was specifically this week. So I went into this week with like 120, 140 different positions on dozens of tickers. And I knew that now, I followed them every morning. So that's why they became so big. I think, again, let me just finish this part. So this week, I'm going into Friday thinking, man, these guys are fucked. I've got them. I finally figured this out. And Thursday, the 23rd, is when I first realized that there was a theory first realized who DFE was. And I think it was that day that I realized there was a theory that he'd been talking to somebody, right? I don't think that was Richard Newton's videos yet. I think it was the following week. But I spent that whole afternoon going through the videos myself, and I thought they were great, right? I didn't think they were talking to me. I just thought they were great. I'd never seen them before. On Friday is when I realized that maybe there was more to it, right? So Friday at expiration, I've been watching tickers all day for 3 weeks, like a dumbass, just watching them ramp up and hedge positions, and then sell off everything right at close or right in the morning. All the stuff that you guys have seen. But in my mind, this Friday, I thought I had won, and we reach into closing hours, 1 o'clock my time, 4 o'clock Eastern. In that last 30 minutes is when I was expecting something to get pushed into an in the money position. None of it did, right? I think it was the following Monday or Tuesday. I called Robinhood and I was like, yeah, what happened? Some of those should have been pushed in the money. Again, I'm completely ignorant to all of this, but I called them and I was like, yeah, some of those should have been pushed in the money. What happened? And they gave me the generic bullshit of like, oh, we try and sell off your positions at close. If we can't, then they just expire, right? I'm talking like 2-3 pennies. It was what it was off at 12:58 my time before close. Any movement would have pushed me in the money for either the put or the call. In any case, Friday that week in that weekend is when I really started going through the Roaring Kitty memes and realized that okay, maybe this is connected, right? Like I'd reached out to Super Stonk. I'd reached out to multiple federal agencies. Maybe that's it. Somehow these guys are working together, right? And they're now communicating with me. So I started watching this stuff. And that's when you'll see in my trade history that I actually started placing positions on GameStop. Now, the following week, first week I actually had positions on GameStop. It was not a good week for GameStop from what I remember. And my thought at the time was, well, you're a dumbass, dude. Like, if you were supposed to focus on GameStop, then why would they need you? Like, everyone else at this point is buying calls, is DRSing, doing all the same shit we've done for years. If I was supposed to do that, then I would be doing that. I should be doing the shit I was doing before. So I kept going. And the stock started rising. I mean, at this point, look at the numbers, May 24th, you'll see those two squeezes seem to be related to my positions, right? And not because I was placing on GME, but because I was placing all the shit that was being hedged against or leveraged for GME. In any case, that was my thought process. It was if I was supposed to buy GameStop, then that's what I should do, or this wouldn't feel like there's communication being talked to me. I've never met any of these people. I don't know Larry. I don't know Ryan. I don't know Keith. I trust these three guys more than I trust anybody at this point, but I've never met them. Sorry if it sounds like I'm rambling. I really don't want to be talking about this stuff, but I feel like I have to again. So I spent that whole weekend going through the memes, and a lot of these meant stuff to me that maybe didn't mean stuff to you guys. I've got, if I could figure this damn thing out, I've got Richard Newton's page up here. Richard, I love your content. I don't understand any of it, even with how you explain it. If you ever want to jump on and talk this through, I think maybe we could help each other make sense of some of this stuff. But really, when you put this together, whenever that was, is what made me think that, okay, maybe I am actually like part of this somehow. I told myself it couldn't be me because I wasn't a whale. I don't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of money. By the third week of May, I had already burned through most of my liquidity. Like most of the liquid cash I had burned through. I had more money coming in from clients, but I'd already stopped working. I quit my job, I think that first week of June, and I started using credit cards, right? There was all sorts of funny stuff that started happening outside at the same time. Like I would deposit money into Robinhood. I had plenty of money in my bank, and the bank would pull it back, and then I'd get a margin call. Like just weird stuff. So that led to me pulling all my money out of the bank. I knew there was something weird going on by that point. It happened 2 or 3 times, and then so the first second week of June, I'm out of actual cash. I looked at my credit cards and go to pull out cash advance again. Why not? The whole world's falling apart. The government's going bankrupt. I'm getting a whistleblower reward. Why not max out my cards, right? Why not take out a couple of loans? I've figured out the market. I'll pay them back when one of these things comes through. This was my honest thought process. Not saying it's rational, just saying it happened. So in any case, I take my credit cards. I hit 15, 16 different ATMs one morning with 7 different credit cards. Never used cash advance before. Some of these I actually had to request a cash advance PIN. I had to wait a week to get the PIN in the mail. I'd log in, confirm, oh yeah, you can get $5,000 cash back. You can get 3,500 cash back. I tried 15, 16 different ATMs across 20 miles, and every single card at every single location would not let me get cash back. So there was a week where I didn't have a lot of money to bet. I actually had started buying watches. I started buying stuff that had some resale value in the private market. Bought a gold watch from Europe on one card. I bought a Rolex on another. I mean, turns out most of this shit actually isn't worth anything. I think that was part of the lesson for me, but it gave me a little bit of liquidity to keep going. And then by July, my thought process through June was still like, none of this can be real. Like, I don't know if this is real or not. I just got to get through until this whistleblower thing happens, or the government goes bankrupt, whatever it is. And then I thought for sure July 4th something was going to happen, because that was the flag emoji and microphone. That was a really long weekend. I'm sure it was for a lot of folks. 3-day weekends I think that was a 3-day. We had a couple of trading holidays. Juneteenth was another day that I thought for sure was going to happen for different reasons. In any case, 4th of July was really rough, and by July I was like out of credit card. My credit limits were maxed. No cash. I started selling shit, right? Not just the shit I'd bought. I started selling stuff that I already had. Went to GameStop with my consoles. Sold an iPad. Sold some TVs. My TV monitor. Anyway, I sold a bunch of stuff to keep going. Because again, I only had to make it a couple more weeks, right? So I fought through July. And there's a little backstory here. I'm going to save most of this for another video, but in end of May, I had stopped a bomb threat. I know this sounds completely random. This is tied to one of the churches involved, and there's a periodical that went out in May of this year, that had a really random picture in it. And once I understood that these people were involved and saw this picture juxtapositioned with the other pictures in that periodical, I knew something was up, right? So I had this lingering thought from that time, from June and into July, that there was going to be a Black Swan event. It's crazy. Again, I know what I sound like. I can provide you all of the documentation, every screenshot, every call log, every publicly available resource, everything that I've sent in to whistleblowers. I feel like people need to hear this stuff, because it's massive. There's no conspiracy bigger than what this means. In any case, so I stopped a bomb threat in May. At least I think I did. The bomb never went off. A bridge never collapsed. So I don't know. I don't know if there was a bomb or not. But I know it didn't happen, and I know that I did report it. So I was expecting something. Whether or not that first thing was going to happen, I had positions in place in case something did happen. And then I think it was CrowdStrike. There was an event end of August. And again, you could see it was either CrowdStrike or the first attempt on Trump. One of those two. There was two that I didn't intend to stop two. or to prevent two market crashes. I think I just had lingering positions on like S&P 500 basket ETFs or NASDAQ ETFs. I started messing with stuff in August because I was getting desperate and I didn't understand any of it. And some of it I just wanted to, I was trying to figure out what they were pumping. It looked like they were pumping silver. It looked like they were bringing in a lot of liquidity through crypto. I knew they were using like iShares, TQQQ. I mean, there was a plethora, and they kept bouncing around. So it was tough to chase them down, and that led to a lot of weird positions, right? And then I was watching institutions buy in around that time. I kept trying to push the price higher. I did. I also knew it wasn't about that, though. I saw everyone buying in is really what it was. Institutions, apes. We'd already done the two ATM offerings. We'd already raised $4 billion. And then, but I knew that it had to be bigger. Like I knew that once we squeeze, like everything else falls apart. So we need as many people to buy on this as possible. And not everyone has had 3 years to throw money at it. I mean, I myself, when this started, I only had 55 shares. I think now I've got 125 or something. It truly, this isn't about me. It never was. It's not about getting rich. It's not about making money. It's about change, honestly. So that led to September, right? Now, this whole time, all I wanted was answers. There's ways that I am connected to all this stuff that I still want answers to. Somehow my family is connected to this. I've tried talking to them. I can't get answers. It's the weirdest thing. The people I work to are connected to this. I feel like, again, I know what I sound like, but I don't have, I can only say my beliefs at this point. I think that these guys were expecting me. I think they were waiting for me to show up because once I reported this, the whole world started falling apart, and I could see it. I'll find my other. I sent like 7 or 8 whistleblower reports as I learned more and processed all of this stuff. But what I sent this in May 8th, May 9th. Just off the top of my head, I know the Iranian president died in a helicopter crash. We saw, obviously things started increasing in Gaza. We saw the CrowdStrike, outage, let's call it, whatever it was. We saw, Biden dropped out. We saw two attempted assassinations on 45. I mean, I couldn't even list. At one point I thought about it and just trying to, but there literally was a domino effect that I told my wife that I was concerned would happen, and so far it's all played out. And so far I've been waiting for someone in the government to come forward and tell people what's actually happening. It was around September, about a month ago, where I finally accepted that wasn't going to happen, right? There was, my birthday was September 18th. That was kind of a day that I had put in the back of my head all the way back in July that I was going to push myself to keep going until then. Again, I just want truth at this point. Honestly, I just want to know why is this happening? Why is it happening to me? And the 18th came. Leading up to the 18th, I learned that the Fed was going to do, interest rate decrease, and that the last time we'd done one on September 18th was the 2009, 2008, whatever, before the financial crash was, the last one we had. Same date, they dropped the interest rate on the 18th, and then I think by that weekend, the 20th or something, the market started crashing. I could be misremembering that. My best recollection is that if we cut another quarter basis points, then we should start see the market precipitating. So I was trying to hold out for that, but something also happened in September where I think they figured out who I was or where my positions were coming from or what, but it didn't seem like my positions affected the market in the way that they had before. And I had like $1,800 left. Like I really wasn't able to spread money around on and compete or battle against these guys the way that I had been. So September 18th came and went. I for some reason I thought I would get answers that day. I guess I was hoping the Fed was going to, drop interest rates more, and maybe that would lead to a market crash. And then I started seeing everyone pumping money, all the central banks pumping money back into the market. We'd already learned the jobs numbers were BS by that point. I mean, again, I know at this point it sounds like I'm rambling. I'll cut this off in a minute and talk about it more tomorrow. But yeah, that was like the last for me. That was just the straw on the camel's back. Was just really realizing that no one was going to do the right thing. Like I do think that there are people helping us, helping me. There are people that are trying to do the right thing. We were all born into this system. As crazy as that sounds, none of this sounds like the stuff I would be saying 6 months ago, right? You guys won't appreciate that because you didn't know me 6 months ago. It'll take a little bit of time, I guess, for me to even understand what all this stuff means. But I realized no one was going to do the right thing, and I'd given everyone a lot of time. There were multiple reasons why I didn't talk about this before. Again, first, I didn't believe it. Then I didn't want to believe it. And then I accepted it. And then once I accepted it, probably August, then it was concern for the people who this would connect me to, like publicly, people that I've never met that were already sticking their necks out for the community and for change. And I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure. There was one of Keith's tweets that had mentioned, like, you've got an account and you've got a microphone. But then there was another one that had been like the two roaring kitties talking. And one of them was like, well, at least you can talk. And I always thought that one was Keith, right? So again, it took me a while to realize that these guys had already risked their safety, and that I had to be okay to risk mine and come forward if we were going to move forward. As crazy as all this sounds, that I was trying to protect people who had already taken a risk, and that the best thing I could do was just get this out there. That if someone was going to do something to me, they already know who I am. I know they know who I am. I worked with a lot of these folks. My family is somehow connected to this, and I know them. And I reported this to multiple government agencies, and they have my info too. So there's a lot of distrust out there right now. And I can't help but think that the data that I have shows this has been planned for 15, 20 years. This is intentional. All of the chaos we're seeing is to divide us. GameStop is the answer. And what I'm here to do is help people understand that. Not just the apes that are in the community. Those folks already get it. You guys get it. That's what I've been trying to get out. Is I have real data that people that might have turned their nose up at GameStop before, that they'll listen to this data. They don't have a choice now. They can't look at us and say we're a meme stock or say we're dumb apes. I need help though, right? I have not been on social media in at least 8 years. I created my Twitter account in 2015. I think the last time I tweeted before recently was probably around the 2016 election. I haven't been on Facebook in about just as long. Right? These are my weaknesses. I'm not a great content creator. I am a great public speaker. I can be. I can help boil this down to a simpler message, but I don't have the reach to get this out there. So I do want to take as much time as I can I'll go through all of the memes with you guys and help you understand what they mean to me. I would encourage you guys to go back through some of those now and look at some of the things that I've tweeted out. I just realized today that I think we might actually be like fulfilling some of these things, and I don't even realize it. This is weird, right? I think I do have more answers than this, but if you guys can't, if you can't wrap your head around this, you're never going to believe what the rest of the story is. So again, I want to keep talking about this. I need to get the message out. I need to get this data in front of people who will listen. This is how we grow the community. If you want to know how we fix this, right now I'm firm in my beliefs. My thesis will always change with new data. We all should have that mindset. We have been doing the same thing for 3 years, trying the same tactics for 3 years. I believe what I learned and what I've shared through various social media channels is how we win. There's multiple ways. You don't have to do all of them. Pick one or two. Buy at GameStop. Buy GameStop shares. Compete against the hedges. Stop participating in the system. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to not pay your mortgage. You don't have to quit paying your bills. I did all of these things because I looked at my bills. I looked at my mortgage. I looked at my car payments. They were all owned by these same people. So literally every dollar I was spending was being spent against us. Again, you don't have to be this extreme, but these are the ways we can accelerate the inevitable. Like, it is happening. My best guess right now is that my positions in either May or June lock these guys in for another 3 years. I think there's other things that are set to happen in 3 years that mean we've already won the game. So if we want to sit and do the same thing for 3 more years, let's do it. You guys do that rather. I'm going to do this. Come do it with me. That's it.